Welcome to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing tonight? Yes, it's going to be a great show. I am Tammi Mac, and well, that's one reason why it's going to be great. Okay, I'm done. Look, when it comes to Black celebrities like Common, he's a celebrity, right? He's Black. Angela Bassett, Spike Lee, and many others, there have always been conversations about the challenges they face in the industry that is dominated by their white peers. But what about the people who work behind the scenes, like Black publicists who work tirelessly to build their clients' brands and make sure they are always on their A game, especially when it comes to the images they present to the public? Well, tonight we are talking to Black publicists about their journeys, the obstacles they have faced in their careers, and so much more. People, please welcome the managing partner of the Purple Agency, Andre Watson, producer and the CEO of the Brito Agency, Marvette Brito, and the founder of Black Excellence Brunch and media expert, Trail Thomas. Hi, Trail.
Hi.
And, okay, I'm sorry. Hold on, Donna. I got you, Donna. Don't think I forgot about your girlfriend. I did not forget about you. Celebrity PR executive, Donna Torrance. Hey, y'all. How's it going tonight?
Hey, girl.
Amazing. Hey.
Excellent. So this is how we start the show every night. And just because, this is a Publicist show and it's all about Hollywood doesn't mean we should start the show any less of a question. So I'll pose it first to Donna. Why should Black people care about Black publicists?
Well, we're the people behind all of those great artists that you all love. And all of the things that you see in the media about your favorite artists, we're the ones controlling all of that information. So that's why we're important.
Andre, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, when you see your favorite artist on an interview or on TV or singing their song, we set those things up. So, it's kind of what we do in the background. We're always in the background, but we're making sure that your favorite artist is out there and you can actually, access them.
Trail, why should Black people care about Black publicists?
Black people should care about Black publicists for the same reasons that Black people should care about Black culture. We set the tone for what happens, how it happens. Black publicists have been behind not only Black artists, but white artists, and artists of all different cultures. So Black publicists really, really matter, and they're really important as far as messaging is concerned, as far as just making sure that we're heard as Black people.
Marvette, why should this Black woman, care about you, this Black publicist?
Mm-hmm. That's a really loaded question. Why should Black people care about Black publicists? Everybody should care about Black publicists because Black publicists are the stewards and the shapers and the surrogates of Black culture. We help define Black culture. We help to storytell around Black culture. We help to shape the global optics of what Black people will think about Black culture. So it's less about people caring about us as an individual or us as a PR community. And it's more about caring deeply about how we are perceived globally. Because if we aren't fighting to make sure that Black stories are told and that Black storytellers are amplified, then we are erased from the global conversation. And pretty much similarly to how we're almost being erased from the Hollywood conversation. So caring about us is caring about yourself and caring about the further amplification of Black narratives and Black creatives.
Ooh, you came ready, sis. That's what I'm talking about. So let's, for all of our viewers out here, let's talk about the definition of a publicist. I know there are publicists, there's publicity, there's public relations. So what are the differences and what are the definitions of each of them? Or are they basically one in the same? We'll stay with you on this one, Marvette.
You know, there aren't many interpretations of public relations. When you go back to the father of PR and you think about, you know, just how it has evolved, I think that there have been many perceptions around how people activate in their PR-ness, if you will, right? And how they function in a principled way around the culture of publicity. But public relations is the amplification of a message. It is the way in which you communicate and shape perception around a person or a product. And you do that through various message vehicles. It could be, you know, radio, it could be television, it could be an event. There are many people that don't know the distinction between public relations and people who are strategists, and public relations who, you know, those who are event planners, those who are, I mean, so there's lots of different layered understandings of what the PR practice is. But a publicist fundamentally is someone who shapes the communications narrative around a story, around the storytelling, and helping to amplify that message for a person or a product. Unfortunately, throughout culture and throughout the evolution, there have been lots of different interpretations of what a publicist's role is. But fundamentally, our job is to raise awareness and visibility, and to do so by honoring and amplifying the goals, principles, and values that that particular person or product embodies.
Donna is a publicist, because to the rest of us, to the rest of the world who aren't a part of this Hollywood scene and don't really know what's going on in the background, when we think publicists, when we think public relations, because of Shonda Rhimes, we now think Olivia Pope. Is that a publicist, or is that more of a strategist? Are people looking at it the right way when they see that?
That's a publicist. What Olivia Pope does. She was always dealing with the media and making sure that her clients' stories were told the way she wanted them told. So a lot of times we saw, even with Olivia Pope, that what happened, what really happened, sometimes was translated to the media as the truth, and sometimes it wasn't. It depended on what she wanted in the media. But, you know, getting away from Olivia Pope and thinking about what most publicists do, you have, say you have an artist or an author or just a personality. I feel like what publicists do is make sure that story is told correctly. So you don't want all of the media just saying what they think. You want your story told the way the story should be told. You want your truth to be, as Marvette said, amplified in the media the way that it should, and in the proper way. You want to be able to, you as an artist as well, want to be able to tell your story the way your story should be told. And that's what we do. We make sure that it's done correctly.
So Andre, I'm listening to Marvette and Donna say that a publicist essentially structures the story around a specific entertainer or company, I would imagine. But my question is, today, with the advent of the internet, mm-hmm. just how difficult must it be to tell someone's story the way in which they want the story told when everybody else is receiving? You know, I just ran across a meme, and I'm sure you guys saw this meme today. It was a meme that said Jay-Z and Beyonce were buying the masters to DMX's music and then giving it to their kids for free. And then we find out that this is false. It's not true. They haven't bought them. They didn't give them to the kids. None of that happened. So in this day and age where you have the internet, where one little piece of information can become worldwide in less than 1/10 of a second, how does a publicist deal with that type of structure, Andre?
Yeah, and that happens all the time. So it's really up to us to determine whether or not it's worth the time to actually, to counteract that story or just let it live and that sort of thing. So, you know, in a case like that, I would imagine that, you know, someone will come out and say, well, you know, that's not necessarily the truth, and actually tell what actually happened, but on the behalf of the people being spoken of. So that's kind of what we do. We make sure that, you know, our clients' intentions are made clear.
And so then Trail, because I hear Andre saying you know, if it's a story that really doesn't value our attention, then we just let it ride. So what's the difference between a story that values your attention to change the trajectory of it versus a story that should just lie dormant?
Yeah, I think that there's not one way to answer that question. I think there are a couple of things. You know, one, how important is it to the client? Like, and I think that's the number one thing, right? You really have to start with your client and see, you know, what story they'd like to tell, how the story that's currently out is affecting them, and how they'd like to counteract that. Sometimes it's important too, and sometimes it's not. You know, so, and then also you have to think about, is it damaging? You know, what is it doing to the perception of your client? And so those things are important, but most of the time, you know, if it's not damaging or if the client is really not bothered by it, and some things are so absurd that nobody's going to believe it, you know, it's best to just let those things ride and not play into them.
Well, we're going to let a commercial ride right now, but we're coming right back on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Well, welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Hi, everybody. So tonight we are talking to Black publicists and about how effective they are when it comes to, well, the media, entertainment, and getting our narrative out in a way in which they want. Look, if you want more of this Fox Soul content, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you hit the notification bell to get all the best updates on new videos and live shows. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and tell us how you feel in the comments section. So if you're joining me, I've been talking to the managing partner of the Purple Agency, Andre Watson, TV and film producer and CEO of Brito Agency, that would be Marvette Brito, and the founder of Black Excellence Brunch and Media expert, Trail Thomas, and Donna Torrance, PR expertise in the house, working with celebrities. They are all working as Black publicists in Hollywood. And so now it's time to get to the good part where we find out just how difficult it is to be a Black publicist in all of white Hollywood. So how often have you felt that you were only hired to work on a project or with Black talent because you are Black? Andre?
Well, you know, fortunately for me, you know, the Purple Agency, we're an agency that deals in culture. So we deal with Black artists and Black talent. And our goal is to get them through Black culture into mainstream. So that's not necessarily how it works for me personally. And I think that's great for me because, you know, I kind of came into where I am during like immediately after Donald Trump became president. And so if I had to work on the other side during that time, I don't know how that would have gone for me. So I've been fortunate to deal in Black culture.
So then explain that to us, Andre, because what does that mean? You dealing in Black culture? We don't even know what that is.
Yeah, so my background is I worked for Fortune 500 companies. I worked for Rubbermaid, then I worked for Pfizer, and I had a sales background. But as it pertains to the Purple Agency, a lot of the artists and the folks that we work with, companies come to us, especially in this time, because they need a Black voice. And so, you know, that's kind of where we sit, and we enjoy being in that space.
So when you say, break it down to us,
okay,
so it can forever and consistently be broken, my brother. When you say companies come to you, give me a clear example. So let's just use Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So Coca-Cola will come to the Purple Agency and ask for what?
So say, for example, Coca-Cola is launching a new product, or they're launching a new initiative.
They're launching Coke Black, let's say, Coke Black.
Specifically, you know, we've got Black Lives Matter going on. We've got all these cultural, social injustice issues going on. They need Black voices that can speak up and speak on behalf of Black people. And what we've recognized is that a lot of these companies at the higher levels don't have Black voices. And so in absence of those Black voices, they have to go outside and find folks that understand culture. And so that would be an example of where we would come in and say, this works, this will not work. And that's kind of where we start.
So then, okay, so I'm kind of understanding, but let's make sure I'm clear. So Coca-Cola would come to you because they need they need some assistance with getting their product into Black culture, or
their messaging is wrong, or they have an issue.
So they're not coming to you for a specific client.
Right. Coca-Cola would be the client.
Got it. So, okay, got it. So then you're a different type of publicist. So you don't Regina King is not your client, and Coca-Cola is coming to you saying, we'd like Regina King to endorse our product. That's not the type of work that you do.
That happens as well. So that's the other part. We work with artists, we work with companies, we work with organizations. So it really just depends on the situation. But at our root and at our core, we deal in culture. So not to say that we don't work with white artists, because we do, but our strong suit is Black.
And so what would you do for a Black company to ensure that their messaging is on point? What's an example of that maybe you've already done?
Yeah, it's really about having conversations with executives, understanding where everybody sits, what their thoughts are, and challenging those thoughts. It would be insensitive to create a product that goes against what Black people know to be true. And so someone has to be in the room to say those things. And so that's how it could look.
Yeah. Trail, can you thrive as a publicist if you only work on projects that target Black people?
I think Black people can thrive as a Black publicist. Black people can thrive in any kind of situation. So I'm gonna first put that out there. But to answer your question about thriving in a place where we're just representing Black culture, I think that yes, you can. I think that the unique thing about Black publicists is that we have to understand it all. We have to understand the way the Black culture works. We have to. All we're ever taught a lot of times is white culture. So we have to understand the way white culture works. We have to understand everything to be able to put our client in the best position. So I think there's never a time where we're isolated and just having to thrive within Black culture, because we have to have a global understanding of it all.
So here's where we get into the good part. And I'll go to you on this, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Do Black people have to be a part of mainstream, and do publicists have to put their clients into mainstream in order for them to be successful?
I believe most of the time that we do. You want to reach the largest audience possible in order for someone to be successful. But a lot of times what we do is we start out, I'll start a new artist, for instance, in Black media. And then you build from there. They'll get noticed by mainstream media when they're blowing up all over the Black media or urban media.
Yeah. Marvette, I want to ask you the same question. Do publicists have to take their clients mainstream in order for them to be considered successful?
We have to look at the definition of mainstream and
white people.
Well, we look at it as it relates to the masses, right? Back in the day, there used to be this term called selling out. Well, if you write a book, you want to sell as many books as possible. If you are doing a concert, you want to have the biggest audience possible. I think the distinction that has to be made when we talk about, do Black people want to sell to white people, and we want the project, no matter what the project is, to have the biggest audience. But I think the real conversation is, are Black people a part of the ride, the higher and the more amplified the project becomes. That's the conversation, right? That's the truthful conversation.
So then are you saying once the ride begins to excel, Black publicists are no longer warranted?
Well, let me just state a fact here tonight. I would venture to say that in 2021, that 99% of Black talent today are represented by people that don't look like them. Okay, 99%. And
so you all are this panel is 1% of the representation of Black folk.
Absolutely.
You agree with that, Andre?
Maybe even 0.5%.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and she took it lower. Oh. Trail, you agree with that?
I would have to agree. You know, I am one of the founders of My Publicist is Black, which is an incredible organization. And part of the purpose that we started My Publicist is Black is because of the facts that Ms. Marvette just stated. So I don't think she's far off at all.
Wow.
Well, let's just go through the top.
You know, I'm sorry, go ahead, Marvette.
No, I was going to say, you know, you can count on one hand the A-list Black artists that are represented by Black publicists. So, you know, it doesn't, and I think the conversation is really about not where Black publicists are taking talent, but where talent believes they can go with a Black publicist, right? And this misnomer that they can't achieve commercial success with a Black publicist, because that's the myth that has to be, you know, proven to be false. And it is false, but that is the perception that has been really very prominent in Hollywood and beyond. I've been in business almost 30 years and it hasn't changed. If anything, the number of Black publicists has declined deeply, greatly than where it was when I started. So that's the larger conversation that needs to be had. And that's the problem, the systematic operational problem that must change so that Black representation has Black people a part of their process, not just their makeup artists, not just their stylists, not just their security, but in the decision-making roles when it comes to where our culture goes.
This reminds me of, it puts me in the, this reminds me of agencies when it comes to sports agents, you know, it reminds me of the college. We've had this conversation lately about college athletes going to Black universities as opposed to the predominantly white institutions. And it's shocking to me. I'm laughing because all these Black folk talk about how woke they are and how Black they are and how they want to contribute to the Black community. And then when you look behind the curtain, you see all these white folk working for them. Right. So it's like, I'm not sure, dude, how down are you? How true are you to the game? Really, really. But then there is this other, you know, there is this other thing behind that says, but Andre, you can't get me on Vanity Fair.
And that was, I was going to say to Marvette's point, you know, I think the four of us on this panel can also say that a lot of these Black talents or these Black A-list artists or celebrities that we now know, they probably came through us and got to a point and decided that, you know, Vanity Fair was not something that Andre could potentially get for them, which to Trell's point is not the case, because we do have to understand everything. We do have to understand all markets. We do have to understand how Black culture moves and where it can go. And so, you know, it's about perception. And the perception, unfortunately, is that they're going to get more if they take, you know, if they go elsewhere.
I want to talk about, we're going to take a quick break, Marvette. I'll come right back to you. But when we come back, I want to talk about, and this has been a running theme in my show lately, and it's about how Black people don't recognize their own power. And I want to talk about how that plays into the publicity world when we return on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul, where the business of being Black tonight is publicist in Hollywood, Black publicist in Hollywood. Now, here's what always just takes me on a whole nother level, and that's Black power. So what would happen if Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, Angela Bassett, I can go on and on, Denzel Washington, Samuel L. Jackson, what would happen if these A-list celebrities all ended up, or hired, I should say, all hired Black publicists? And I'm not saying that they don't have them now. I'm just assuming that they don't, based on the 1% that you talked about, Marvette. So what would happen to the industry? Would they not be who they are today if they didn't hire publicists that were white?
They would absolutely be who they are today. Let's just break it down, right? The Black publicist is the one who is often starting out with these artists, right? We're in the trenches with them. We're with them when they have no budget. We're with them when we have to turn water to wine virtually, right? We're with them when we have to create the storytelling. We have to go to Black press and white press to get them to care about them, right? And how are we able to do that? Because we can speak with a cultural fluency that the press understands, and that the client understands, and that we understand. So it's a very harmonious relationship. And then it works, then it happens, then they blow up. They become everything they desire to be. They get bigger agents, different managers oftentimes. And then that infrastructure is the one that has oppressed Black people generation after generation after generation, right? It's a system of everyone knowing each other. It's very incestuous, if you will. The agent or the manager or whomever else in the orbit will, of course, call people that are in their orbit that often don't look like us. And that is how we emerge out of the epicenter of being in the orbit of influence and no longer a part of the culture of growing that brand. Now, once they become A-list or become more popular, the lift gets, easier, if you will, because they're really at that point not proactive like we had to be to get people interested in them. They oftentimes are just reactive. So where's the rationale that the Black publicist is not equipped to return a phone call? So it really is not rooted in any rationale. It's rooted in the fact that if you look at agents, if you look at lawyers, if you look at just the infrastructure of Hollywood, the deficit of Black people is prominent. It was almost 30 years ago when I started, and it still exists. You can still count probably on two hands the number of agents that exist at the big Hollywood agencies. So obviously, if you just look at the sheer numbers, agents are going to steer people to their friends. They're going to steer people to who they know. Back when Donna and I started, yes, you might have had the argument that we were harder to find, right? That maybe we weren't as plentiful. But what's the argument now? There are so many amazing Black publicists, Black strategists that are plentiful, but they still are not hiring Black publicists to the degree that they should. Right. And I'm not saying that every Black person must have a Black strategist, must have a Black publicist. But I will say, does the ratio of 1% sound right to you or to anyone who is within earshot of just understanding that, Rihanna, Pharrell, I don't want to call any individuals out, right, but I can just say that it was very disheartening to me growing up in this industry and realizing, meeting people like Donna, amazing, worked at labels and helped to shape and cultivate and make people, get people interested in these artists. And then they went and took their talent elsewhere the higher they climbed. So we weren't able to, we were vested in their success because we helped to cultivate their success, but couldn't be a part of their success as they continue to elevate.
Donna, you want to tap in on that, Donna?
Yeah, it happens. It happens all the time. It happens so much that I don't even get mad about it anymore. Honestly, you work with an artist, and as they're climbing to the top, and you help them you start them out with, as I was saying before, the Black press, and then they elevate more and more as they get more popular, and then we get them into the Vanity Fair, the Black Publicist does, and then they get to the point where they're at a higher level, and they leave you behind and hire a white agency. That happens a lot. And then another thing that happens is I'll get a phone call from an A-list talent, but what they want me to do is just solidify Black media for them.
Get you on the Breakfast Club. They want you to get them on the Breakfast Club.
Exactly. Yeah. They heard that this Breakfast Club is hot and that they should be on it, but they don't know who to call. So they call me and say, we want you to get this and this and this and this and this, but no, we don't want you to touch Vanity Fair or any of that. And then they come to you with some crazy low budget also.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm dating myself a little bit here. But one of my favorite shows is Good Times. And there's always, like, Good Times to me it's so magnificent because everything that was happening in the 70s on Good Times still exists today. So there's this episode where JJ gets this client and she wins this contest and she gets all these bookings for these nightclubs afterwards because he encouraged her and gave her these opportunities. And then this white man comes up and says, I want you to be, on my roster. And she's like, no, I got JJ. And so the white man goes and cancels all of her other club gigs that JJ's gotten her because he has a relationship with them and JJ doesn't. So I say that to say, is that happening? Because there has to be a reason why these A-list celebrities break camp with Black publicists. Is it because maybe these people who they think can do better or greater or bigger or whatever that is for them, are they then trying to block them from certain things because they are with someone else versus with a mainstream?
No, I don't. It's not really that. It's just the simple old statement that they think white is right. Yeah. For some reason, they feel like
the white man's ice is colder.
The white man's ice is colder, number one. And that for some reason, I don't know how to make that phone call. I don't know how to call Vanity Fair.
Unfortunately,
I also think
ridiculous.
Go ahead, Andre.
The unfortunate thing is that we've baked that into our business model, understanding that we will take you there and we're ready to let you go if you have to go because that's how it happens sometimes. And so, that's just we recognize that, we will get you there and you might leave.
And so then that becomes a part of your selling. That becomes a part of your selling point, if you will. That's what you're saying by we bake it into our.
Yeah, we don't hold anybody hostage. We want the client to be great and get what they want and that sort of thing. But the fact that, you have to bake into your business model the idea that you've done all this work, you've taken someone this far, and they might leave you. That's problematic.
I have two theories. I think one is, aside from the things that have already been discussed, I think one is fear. Like, I think that what these other agencies or publicists, they instill this fear that like you have to do it like this. I know, you know, they don't know, and then the client gets afraid and not realizing, Tammi, what you first said, their power. Like they have a power that is so great because they are the talent. This person, this manager cannot make money without you. This agent cannot make money without you. This, you know, this publicist cannot make money without you. And so it's as simple as stepping up and realizing your power and saying, hey, no, actually, Donna is coming with me for this. This is, and I think that really sets the tone because we can keep opening doors, right? Yeah. And then I think the second part of it is that when we bring in clients, Black people, we give so much grace. We treat our clients like family, you know? And I think with some of the other agencies and other folks, it's just like business is business and they don't build these real relationships, which is why they can't tell these real stories like we can. They can't pull on these real narratives and they can't tap into the culture like we can that allows us to lay the foundation for these clients, right? But in the same token of that, being a family is a really good thing. Being family sometimes allows people to treat you in a way that they're like, well, this person is kind of disposable, or they'll still be there, or they'll still love me, or Donna will still pick up the phone if I want her to do X, Y, and Z, you know, but I'm afraid that I might lose this, so I'm gonna go with this. And because at the end of the day, it's contracts that they have, it's business, you know, and that type of approach. Not saying that we should change that, but I think it's realizing that like blood is thicker than water for another kind of analogy.
Right. I want to go to our soulmates real quick because they're chiming in. Once the ride begins to excel, I think artists or clients cross over to non-Black publicists because of connections. There are certain relationships or circles that a white publicist has. And I think, Marvette, you spoke to that a little bit, but you say that that's that incestuous little club that they're a part of that Black publicists have no access to.
Again, it's not that Black publicists don't have access to it. So let's talk about where the power resides, right? The power resides with the talent, and the power resides with the strategy, and the power resides with the talent being deliberate about not only how he wants to be or how they want to be represented, but really investing in who they want to be in totality, right? And you raised a good point, Tammi, in the beginning when you said, you know, you've got all these artists talking about Black culture, Black pride, you know, just this whole spirit of Blackness.
Of being woke.
Of being, but yet when you pull the curtain back, they're actually sleeping, right? They're actually, they're not even there. They're not even present. They're not even present and deliberate enough to support the, you know, the very people who have always been supporting them, right? And not just Black publicists, but Black culture, right? Black press.
Yeah.
And so when you think about us not having relationships, that's not true. Because if you think about a person that might have a client that is at a different tier, they're certainly talking to Vanity Fair or Vogue.
Right.
So that's
there's no reason why Cardi B, if you were Cardi B's publicist, Vogue couldn't call you and you make that that happen.
The rationale doesn't exist. The rationale doesn't exist. And I don't think it's certainly not, you know, I don't think that we're going to change it. What I chose to do was work around it and expand and not focus solely in one vertical, right?
Okay, so we're going to talk about that when we return, because how do you as publicists get around that issue? And isn't it quite sad that Black folk always got to get around something? We always got to get around something, but then people call us lazy. You know how much work we have to do? Lazy is not a part of our DNA, but we're going to take a quick break and come right back because I'm going to be a little lazy. Take a break right now on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Tonight, the business of being Black or Black publicist. And I just found out that Beyonce has a Black publicist. Who knew? I wouldn't have thought in a million years, which is a shame that I wouldn't have even thought that, you know? And Angela Bassett and Courtney Vance have Black publicists. Who knew? So there are a couple out there who are a little
3 out of 3,000.
3 out of 3,000. 3 out of 3,000. Let's go to the soulmates and see what they're chiming in on here. Okay, somebody says Rough Riders and Marvette used to share an office building, ironically.
Yes, we did.
So I'm imagining you knew DMX in some form or fashion there.
Absolutely, I did. Donna, didn't you work with them as well? I feel like, no?
When I worked at Arista, I worked with the Locks.
Okay, that's right. I knew we intersected, but yeah, I represented Eve, and the Rough Riders office was in my building. So yeah, I knew DMX and the whole Rough Rider family. Really
Somebody know all your business, Marvette. I remember when former Ebony editor-in-chief Harriet Cole was trying to book Samuel Jackson. His white publicist said he was unavailable or wasn't responding, and Harriet Cole had to go to Marvette to get him. Is that true?
That's true. That is true.
So how does that happen?
It happens because I have a lot of deep relationships, and people knew that I would go right to the artist, and the white publicist also knew that I would go right to the artist. So for me, it was, how are you going to not tell Samuel Jackson that the iconic Legacy magazine, Ebony, wanted he and his wife, LaTanya, on the cover? It made no sense to me. LaTanya is a dear friend. Sam is a dear friend. So I called them up, and they, of course, knew nothing about it. That's the most disappointing part about the disparity between Black and white. I don't think any of us are on here complaining, and because we just feel like complaining about it. No, we're talking about it because it needs to be known, number one.
Absolutely.
And number two, they get to decide where our culture goes. And I have a problem with that. Yep. I have a problem with, it's one thing if you have a conversation with your client and say, this particular outlet called, but what most of them do, and I can't say all, can't speak for all of them, but what most of them do is they don't even bring the offer to the client if it's Black media. And to Donna's point, they don't even educate themselves on what Black media outlets are, because they, to them, it's beneath their pedigree. Yeah. And that is a problem for us. We like has been said on this panel, we've got to know white press and Black press, but the white publicists don't have to bother themselves with Black press because they either ignore them, don't respond to the calls, or they just tell the client, you don't need it because you have all these other opportunities.
That takes me to the time when Halle Berry stopped for a Black reporter, and then people started, reporters started saying they never stop for Black reporters. They never do that. Celebrities never do that because their publicist, who is white, takes them away from them. Andre, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two things. They don't know, they don't know where these Black artists should be. And they don't understand that those black media outlets were there when these artists or actors or singers were just starting out. And it's really important for us to ensure that we are circling back and not ignoring those Black press and media outlets because again, they were there and they're gonna be there when things fall apart. And so that I think that strikes a chord in all of us right here.
And that's real. When you say they're going to be there when things fall apart, whenever something goes wrong for not even just a Black person, but even a white person, when something goes wrong, i.e. Andrew Cuomo, they run to the Black community. So how can you run to the Black community to save you, but then run away from the Black community when you don't need to be saved? It just doesn't make sense. You should really ride with the person who brought you to the party. We're going to take a quick break and come right back to the party on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul, where the business of being Black tonight, our Black publicist. Trail, you left. You walked right out of the public relations door, didn't you?
Yeah. I left. I was working at a big corporation, and I left. I left for a couple of reasons. One, because I got tired of, a lot of times this happens, and I'm sure some of the publicists on here can attest to that. They want our ideas. They want our creativity. They want all that stuff. But when it's time to give the credit, when it's time to show love, when it's time for, they want us to be way, way in the back. You know what I mean? And for me,
what's that fuss? Everybody get to the back of the bus.
and it just had happened to me time and time again. I can remember a very specific time where I had pitched this idea, this really great idea. At least I thought it was great, and I was told, like, this is okay. This is not bad. And I walked in on a meeting, a full-fledged meeting about my idea that they were planning to execute. And that was the final straw for me, and I walked out after that. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take all of my talents. I'm going to step into my power, like we talked about, and I'm going to take all my talents and I'm going to do this for me and my people.
So what's the Black Excellence Brunch? Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So the Black Excellence Brunch is really just a space that it's a movement through an event series that really is based off the concept of Sunday dinner. I grew up in South Carolina, where Sunday dinner is a huge part of the tradition, where you go to church and after church you have Sunday dinner, which we know in our lives is brunch time. But what would happen there, it was so beautiful. It was such an affirming and uplifting space where, and the first time where I really got to see the beauty of being Black. And so I started the Black Excellence Brunch to create that space for my friends, to really just love on us, and bringing Black and excellent people together and just have us connect, so that when we walk into these meetings, when we are referring people, when we are walking through doors, we can open windows and open more doors for other people to walk through. And so the Black Excellence Brunch is the embodiment of Black excellence, of Black community, and of uplifting the culture.
That's beautiful. Andre, the Purple Agency, how can people reach you? Or are there certain, you have to be at a certain level to even reach out to you?
Yeah, Instagram, Purple Agency PR, or my Instagram is DreDog1911, but Purple Agency has been around for about 13 years, founded by Felicia Fant, and we work, again, in culture, but across music, TV, film, sports. And so, yeah, I mean, be ready for PR when you come, because the challenge that a lot of artists have is that, they may not be at a place where, they're going to get what it is that they're actually, what they think they're ready for, and they're not necessarily ready for it, or they're not at that stage. So, so just, you got to do your research as well as it pertains to, do I need PR now, or is there something else that I should be doing? Should I be building my team, or should I be focused on magazine articles?
Good point. Marvette, you are the founder of the Brito Agency, where you work for top tier talent and have a long list of clients. So what's next for you?
I'm just going to continue to build great brands with great partners. That's it. That's what it's all about. I mean, PR and branding. We shape culture. PR and branding is like the intravenous drip to the mind, and we will shape how people feel, how people think, how people behave. And I'll continue doing that for those who want to be partners and allow us to be great stewards of their brand.
And Donna, you're a celebrity PR, a publicist. So do you have to be a celebrity to come to you?
Yeah, how about that?
Because see, all y'all talking about taking people from the bottom to the top, but it sounds like based on your level of, you have to be at the top already just to get to you.
No, but if you have talent, if you're an artist, if you're an author, maybe just starting out, but have a book deal, or you're an actor, you've been in a few things. You know, I'm a small company. My company is Media Savvy PR, and I'm found at mediasavvypr.com, and I'm on Instagram at Donna Torrance _. You can come to us, and we're going to give you one-on-one attention and help you develop your story, and help you find your way and find your footing, and put together your message, and get you out there and help you build.
Well, thank you all for getting the message out that Black publicists do matter, and they matter to everyone, not just Black people. I appreciate you, Marvette. Appreciate you, Donna, Andre, and Trail. And I appreciate you, soulmates. Until tomorrow, it's a blessing to be in your box on Fox Soul. Bye, y'all.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.